Good morning and welcome to our first ever virtual Automotive 30% Club conference. I'm Julia Muir, the founder of the club and Chief Executive of Gaia Innovation, the social enterprise that powers the club's activities. It's a great shame that we can't all meet in person this year, but it's at least given us the opportunity to open the conference to many more delegates than we've ever been able to accommodate before. May I say a huge thank you to our conference sponsors Salesforce, a truly inclusive company, for enabling us to go digital in style. For the first time, we've been able to include many more colleagues from our member companies, and I'm also pleased to see that we've got people watching from other businesses, both within and beyond the automotive sector. I'd also like to say a special hello to the students of Newcastle College who are watching the conference as an enrichment activity to supplement their virtual learning. For those of you who are not fully familiar with the club, it's a network of over 40 automotive leaders who've made a commitment to improving the gender balance within their own organisations. All members have the aspirational aim of achieving 30% of key leadership roles to be filled by diverse women by 2030. We're all doing this because of the robust business case for creating gender-balanced, inclusive businesses. The different life experiences and perspectives and complementary characteristics of diverse men and women lead to better decision-making, better leadership, and better financial results. There are many studies supporting the business case for balance, and I'm going to outline the business case later. Our members will achieve the 30% goal by making it a strategic imperative to build inclusive teams and to seek out, recruit and promote women. Of course, we will not use positive discrimination against men because any form of discrimination is wrong, and we wouldn't need to anyway because high-performing women will be employed because they are the best person for the job. Anyone suggesting that women may simply be appointed to meet a target is either biased and believes women are not as equally skilled as men, or believes that business leaders would consciously risk damaging their own organisations by hiring weaker candidates just to hit a gender target. Both beliefs are wrong. The challenge for our members is to attract more women to join their companies and build a pipeline of diverse female talent by removing the invisible barriers that hinder their progression but currently help others. Our conference theme is Change the Game. We will outline the importance of taking action now to reshape our organisations to become inclusive and diverse to be more successful. I've written a book to accompany the conference that sets the scene as to why we need a better gender balance. The book outlines the business case, and it also reveals the 6 steps to success that will help leaders to achieve it and leave a positive, lasting legacy both for the business and for society as a whole. The 6 steps are the topics for our masterclasses tomorrow. The book is called Change the Game, the Leader's Route Map to a Winning Gender Balanced Business. And I hope all of our members have received their free copies by now. So today's agenda is packed with several panel discussions featuring many of the top executives in the automotive industry. We'll hear from 3 of our club patrons on the importance of starting to take real action now to build a gender-balanced business, and also a panel of another 5 influential senior automotive executives will discuss game-changing leadership. I'm also extremely pleased that our guest speaker is John Amici OBE, one of the UK's leading voices in equality, diversity and inclusion. He'll provide extremely useful insight into the topic of building an inclusive business, and his session will be hosted by Jessica Goitner of Salesforce. Please do start to submit questions for our panel participants and John Amici. You do this by clicking on the Q&A button in the engagement panel and tap on Ask Question. Our final session today will give you the opportunity to join roundtable discussions in breakout groups, to talk with our conference participants and other delegates about what you have heard throughout the day, and share ideas on how to get started on the journey to inclusion. I hope that you'll find our sessions interesting and engaging, and please do share your thoughts on social media throughout the day using the hashtag Auto30ClubConf. So let's get started. We're now going to play a short film that showcases the positive impact For all the great activities that Gaia Innovation has delivered on behalf of the club this year, thanks to the funds from our project sponsors Toyota GB, Volvo Cars UK, Jardine Motors Group, CDK Global, MEPC and the University of Buckingham. hope you enjoyed the film. I'm very proud of all that the team has achieved despite the very difficult circumstances of 2020. And I must say a very big thank you to all of the volunteers who took part in our Inspiration for Innovation events and Inspiring Automotive Women Day and virtual visits to schools. 4 of our Inspiring Automotive Women Award winners are appearing in the masterclasses tomorrow. Paula Cooper of Toyota GB, Sarah Cox of Volkswagen Group UK, our Inclusive Leader Award winner Claire Wright of Jardine Motors Group, and our overall Inspiring Automotive Woman of the Year, Rebecca Clark of Auto Trader. All of our volunteers and award winners come from our member companies. We have over 40 members who are the leaders of manufacturers, retailers and supplier businesses, and for more information on the companies represented, please take a look at our Automotive 30% Club website. The members have joined the club because they understand the business benefits of balance and the superior business profitability enjoyed by gender balance pioneers. A McKinsey study tracking 1,000 company-strong dataset found that companies in the top quartile for gender balance leadership were 25% more likely to experience above-average profitability than those in the bottom quartile. They found the higher the female representation, the higher the performance. This superior performance is due to a number of reasons: improved customer insight and orientation, increased productivity and innovation, the ability to attract talent, and the ability to attract investment due to effective and ethical decision making. Also, the combination of gender balance and diversity leads to even more success. I'm very pleased that 6 of our members have accepted my invitation to become Automotive 30% Club patrons with gold member status. They are Dr. Astrid Fontaine, member of the board for People, Digitisation and IT at Bentley Motors, Christine Elverforce, MD of Volvo Cars UK, Catherine Fires, COO of Auto Trader, Stuart Miles, MD of UK and Ireland CDK Global Limited, Daksh Gupta, CEO of Marshall Motor Holdings, and Neil Williamson, CEO of Jardine Motors Group. These patrons have demonstrated a genuine and authentic commitment to significantly improving the gender balance and developing inclusive cultures in their own businesses, as well as collaborating with others in the industry to improve the gender balance across the sector. If the reputation of the sector as a whole is enhanced, then everybody wins. The role of the patron is to help me to steer the club's activities and be an advocate and ambassador for the club and encourage others to take action to become inclusive. These well-respected patrons bring a wealth of knowledge and experience both within automotive and in the field of gender balance, diversity and inclusion. Stuart Miles and Dr. Astrid Fontaine are appearing in the conference tomorrow, but now it's my pleasure to introduce our first panel discussion of the day featuring 3 of our patrons, and they will share their view of the importance of taking action and starting the journey to gender balance now. Please do submit your questions to them and also share your thoughts about the conference on social media using the hashtag Auto30ClubConf. So it's my great pleasure to welcome to the panel Christine Elverforce, MD of Volvo Cars UK, Catherine Fires, COO of Auto Trader Group PLC, and Daksh Gupta, CEO of Marshall Motor Holdings. So welcome everyone, good morning, and thanks so much for joining today. And of course, thanks so much for being patrons of the club.
Morning, Julia. Morning, Christian. Morning, Catherine. Thanks for the opportunity to be here this morning. So looking forward to this session.
Morning, everyone.
And morning, everyone.
So the topic for our discussion is building a winning gender balanced business. Now is the time to change the game. So leaders are currently standing on a burning platform of a turbulent business environment, as we all know, and this is leading many companies to innovate and transform rapidly and look to new and historically untapped sources of skills. They're looking to embrace the change necessary to recruit diverse women and in so doing close the skills and gender gap. We know that the skills needed to employ critical thinking, balanced processing, adapt quickly, pivot to new business models in a crisis are found in inclusive and diverse teams. So we need to act now to build winning gender balanced teams. And now is not the time to lose faith or scale back plans for inclusion. It's needed now more than ever before. So I'd like to start by asking each of you to share your view of the importance of making the decision as a business leader to take action and start the journey to gender balance now. So I'm going to start with you, Catherine, please.
Sure. Well, for me, it's so important to take action now because it just seems so obvious that businesses should be an extension of the consumers, of the customers, of the communities that they serve. I think more than ever, we've seen this in the last few months as the roles of businesses, the roles of government, and the working and living and home and that work and home life balance for everyone have all just become a lot more blurred. And when people's talent and their capability are so clearly not determined by their race or by their gender or by other characteristics, it's just not fair that some people are not represented in the way they should be in business. I've spent most of my career being the only one or a very small number of women with a voice around the table. And at Autotrader, I just can't remember when I've ever been in that situation. And I'm fortunate enough now to work in a business and to be on our PLC board where women make up 50% of that board. And about 40% of our organisation are women. And I've seen and experienced the very positive impact that diversity can have on diversity of thought, has had on our decision making, on our ability to innovate, on how we approach risk, and probably most importantly, on our performance. So there's no doubt in my mind that balanced businesses are better businesses, and those that don't embrace this and don't look to drive that lasting change in their organisation are just going to get left behind.
Very good point about being left behind. So we hear from you now, Christian.
Yeah, I don't feel left behind. So I think from a Volvo perspective, this is something that I have worked quite hard with the last 7 years as MD for different NSCs or national sales companies. And I think you get so much more out of it, whether you are really embracing and also implementing, I would say, gender balance and diversity into the organization. And it's not easy, but I think we have our mission as an OEM is to show the retailers how you do it and to help them and embrace them to change and also be able to engage in leadership and management and the changes as such. We have changed the whole management team the last 18 months. I wouldn't say we are finished because you're never finished. There is always an evolution and development of a team. But I think that we need to continue and we need to have it on top of our agenda. And I think the retailer need to do that as well, because you see, especially in a difficult situation as in the lockdown, that we need to embrace the change. We need to transform and we need to adapt to the future. And I don't think that we see so much of tire kicking coming back to the industry going forward. I am absolutely sure we still need engagement of the retailer, both for a service and a new cost perspective, but that will be in line and in cooperation with the online part. So we need to develop the omni-channel culture. We need to also to actually look into who is really driving our cars. It's a difference with the ones buying still and the ones driving. And we need to take in all the new ideas and things that have happened this year, which I would say all the transformation we've done in 1 year is what we plan for the coming 4 years, the 4 years to come, to be honest. So now we need to continue. So even if we are opening up in some sort of normality, we need to embrace what have happened the last year, and we need to continue to transform in that direction. So that can also only be done with a truly diverse and gender balanced organization.
Thanks, Christian. Yeah, so important to be able to lead the transformation, we do need this diverse workforce, don't we? So over to you finally, Dax. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I completely agree with Christian and Catherine's comments, actually, but just to sort of add to some of that, really, I think from my perspective, this is around business and common sense. I mean, and Catherine made the point around, having the workforce reflect your customer base. Well, we know half our customers are clearly women. And I think one of the things that we started our journey, in fact, similar to Christian, we started our journey 7 years ago, and we were looking at what was happening in terms of customer satisfaction, retention rates on salespeople, and we identified some real firm trends. So without doubt, we had far less customer complaints from our female colleagues who were selling. We had much lower turnover, albeit we had a much smaller percentage of the workforce were female at that point in time. And we just found customers' feedback of the engagement and the experience with our female sales teams was fantastic. And I've got to be honest, we look after 1.2 million customers a year through our 132 retail operations. And sadly, we do make mistakes. We do get things wrong from time to time. But I've also got to be honest, I very, very rarely get customer complaints from any of our female colleagues. I hate to say it, but I think generally they're really well organized. I think that's just a characteristic of how women are if I compare them to some of our male counterparts in the organization. Sorry, guys, I'll probably get told off for this later, but it's just a fact. So that's where we started our journey. And we said, okay, why are we not attractive to people to look at this sector? And we did a whole load of work around attraction to our business, around culture, around packages. So we took away one of the big risks that we found from some of the research that we did, which was low basics. So we removed that. We said, let's take that barrier to entry, because equally women are quite, I think they're more risk averse, I would say. So we said, let's take that risk away then, because we know you can be fantastic in our industry and you can have a great career here. And we simply said, we're going to take that away and we're going to give you a 1-year guarantee, which is pretty bold. But we said, we'll put a 1-year guarantee in place. And we suddenly saw the percentage of women applicants just went through the roof. So back then, from memory, we had about 6% of our sales teams were women. We're up to about 16% now. So still a long, long way to go. But what I would say is what the reason we focused at grassroots level is because for me, the future talent has to come from there, because I think I see a lot of companies where they try to pluck leaders from other businesses to try and make up numbers. But for me, I think if you're going to really have a sustainable business and future for making sure you've got gender balance working right in your organization, you've got to get it right from the very, very grassroots of the organization. So that's what our approach has been focusing on there. I think the other thing is around the commitments we've made is around promoting the success stories. And we've got lots of success stories. We're not quite at Catherine's level at 50% as a PLC board, but I'm really proud. We're at 43%, which is fantastic. And if I look at our sort of senior leadership team, our PLC board, our Exco Ops board, and our heads of business, we're just under the 30% now, and it's fantastic. And I have seen a genuine shift in behaviour as well in our organisation. I think we're more professional. I think we have the conversation is just very different, and we have a different perspective, and I think it's making a big difference to the performance of our business. And I think if you look at our sector, we generally have been one of the groups that have performed really, really well. So I'm really proud of that. I think also Christian will also know that we have a Volvo director who's female as well, which I'm also really proud of. And I think, Christian, you would hopefully say that we do a pretty good job for you guys as well.
And always improve, that's fantastic.
Yeah, Christian, I think we both know that we're sort of top 10 performance there. But Carol, if you are watching, you need to still pull your finger out. So come on, keep going. That's the benefits for us. So it's absolutely common sense, and it's also business sense, and it's really having a positive impact on our business.
Great words there, Dax. Definitely, it is all about making business sense. So I'm going to move back to Christian now. So you've significantly improved the gender balance in the leadership roles in Volvo Cars UK since you became MD. Can you explain why it was a business priority for you? And also, how did you start to implement the plan?
No, I think from a Volvo Group headquarter perspective, it is part of our mission to be more gender balanced and also have more diversity into the organization. But from what I did in Sweden, as my prior job was an MD in Sweden, we did actually the same turn of the management team from 100% male to a 50-50 team. And the result was, I think, especially on building the culture and changing the culture and getting a more flat organization, a more objective and purpose-led organization instead, that actually helped. So I must say it was not easy to start in the UK, but as we were in the first pilot market to do quite a complete transformation of the organization and to change to be a more omni-channel approach to it, I think in that sense we actually needed to embrace with different skills from different industries. So if you take my team now, I think half of them are coming from automotive, which I still think is super important, because you need to know the operations and need to know how to operate a NSC and also retailer, but then also embrace a lot of new skills coming in from different industries. And that's also how you can create a gender balance, because you have a lot of good females in retail business that is not connected to automotive. So no, a tough one, but I think also something that is now embraced throughout the organization, and not only sitting with PX and marketing as a business traditionally do, more that you need to have it all over the organization, from operations, finance into transformation.
Okay, thanks. And over to you, Dax. You joined the Automotive 30% Club a year ago now, maybe just a bit over, and you've already made significant progression towards a better gender balance. So why do you think it's essential to keep a focus on this as a strategic imperative, despite all the other challenges that are happening in the sector?
For me, this is about recognizing the industry changing. You know, we are going to go through the biggest revolution this sector has seen in the next 5 to 10 years, in my opinion, if not faster. And I think what the virus has done last year has accelerated that, if anything. So you have to look at your talent pool, you have to look at your people, and you have to say, are you fit for the future? So this is absolutely critical for us, because fundamentally, customers are going to dictate where they're going to buy their cars from in our business, where they're going to get their car serviced from. Are they going to go online? We have to be relevant as a retailer. And if we are stuck in the past of some of the perceptions that we are all familiar with, the data where, you know, in the past customers have come to our showroom, and, you know, we still have that perception as an industry, don't we, in terms of the customer experience. And we've all heard these stories where people have gone into the showroom and it's been, you know, not the greatest experience, because, you know, there might be a couple that goes in, and historically the guy might just completely ignore the woman, and 9 times out of 10 the car is actually for the woman. So that's got to change. You know, we have to change the culture in our businesses, because if we don't, we're just going to get left behind. New entrants will come in, people will buy online because they say, well, actually, where is the relevance of a retailer? So I think for me, it's absolutely business critical, particularly with what's going on in terms of the changes in the sector right now. So it's not a nice to do. This is an absolute strategic imperative for us. And I think the other thing as well is, it's too easy it's Christian's point around people coming in from outside. It's too easy to regurgitate the same people. I mean, it never ceases to amaze me. And you see the same people turning up from our business, you know, who have not been successful, and they turn up over there, then they go over there, and they go over there. You know, we've got to attract new talent to our business. And of course, if you're cutting off such a significant part of the population because you're not promoting diversity, well, that's a huge opportunity missed. So I view this as a huge opportunity for our business.
Great. And I suppose, I mean, this issue about seeing the same faces turn up time and time again. I mean, I've been in the industry many years, too many years, and that's always been the case, isn't it? That we seem to just accept experience over expertise quite often. So just moving on to you, Catherine, that maybe is not the same issue in the tech world about regurgitating the same faces, but you've been on this journey now for many years. And you've got a very good gender balance in your leadership team. So how are you ensuring you sustain this? You know, as Christian mentioned earlier, this is not something that you get there and it's finished. It's a constant journey that you're traveling along. how are you maintaining and sustaining it, and what more still needs to be done in Auto Trader?
So I think you're absolutely right, Julia. The biggest learning we've definitely had is that driving better gender balance takes huge change in almost everything to do with people. It needs cultural change, and it takes years to have an impact. I think for us, it's been about starting with small steps, and then every month and every year continuing to build on those foundations that you put in place. We've changed everything from how we attract, how we recruit, how we retrain, how we promote, how we develop, how we run reward programs and processes. And none of these things were quick or easy to make happen. They need systems change, process change, and program change. And importantly, you need to take the whole organization on the journey with you. The approach we've really taken, and what I think will continue to mean that we sustain this, is to always start with and continue to focus on the data. So we've used the data to measure both the makeup of our employee base, but also to measure their employee experience, so that we're always getting insight on how we can improve. Sharing the data was actually also a really big part of getting buy-in from the entire organization, so that it really felt like something that we were all working on together as one community. As a FTSE 100, clearly, when it comes to data as well, we report our gender pay gap each year, internally and externally. And from this year, we're also reporting our ethnicity pay gap. And we report all of that data monthly to our PLC board. They get the breakdown on gender balance in recruitment, on new joiners, on leavers, and they also get that breakdown for promotions and pay rises. And so making that data visible and transparent to all of our stakeholders in the business means that we just have much better conversations on how and where we might make change. It also means that it's just always part of the agenda, and it's managed as a business priority. So it's never something you have to schedule time for. It's just part of the conversation. I think the one difference in how we manage our business goals when it comes to getting better balance, not just across gender, but across all the different diversity characteristics, is that, you know, we don't obviously have the same kind of target process. We have long-term, very long-term often goals that we're just very consistently and very sustainably working towards. So over the last 5 years, we've managed to get the number of women in our organisation from just over 30% to close to 40%. But it took us 5 years and a huge amount of change and a huge amount of effort to make that happen. And obviously our goal has to be at some point to get to 50%. But we're confident we'll get there in the future, but it might take us another number of years to get there. But if we're confident we're putting the right foundations and the right systems in place, then we know we will get there, and we'll work slowly towards that goal. I think the things that, or the biggest successes we've had probably, have been around our women's network, around early careers, and around tech returners program, which now all are resulting in much higher level of women joining our business and getting promoted and coming through the organization. They're now all well-established things for us. The biggest challenge at the moment is actually external hires, in particular at senior levels. Given we're in automotive and in tech, I guess we have very different challenges in both of those industries, but we do struggle to get candidate lists with good representation of women at the right level with the right experience. So that's something for us at the moment that we're really focused on. How can we think about it differently? We always look to other industries, but I think we need to be more targeted in how we do that, and we need to make that work harder for us. And I guess what we do know and what we have learned is that we need to be patient, because if we keep working at it, we will get the results we need over time.
And do you use recruitment agencies, or do you advertise in certain places where you know that these women are? How do you actually try to increase the number of women in your candidate pool then?
So 95% of our recruitment is done in-house, and we do it in-house because we have a brilliant recruitment team who are immersed in our culture, who understand our values, and who know how to attract, how to write job descriptions, how to go to market in a way that is much more likely to appeal to all strands of diversity. And they've got a brilliant track record of getting excellent candidate lists for us. We just have to work much, much harder at a senior level because it's just not as obvious. We've found that recruitment agencies don't work hard enough for us. They don't focus enough on our culture or our values or on really buying into the importance of diversity and true diversity for us. So very much an in-house approach. If we couldn't find anywhere to get the capability, we'll build it ourselves. And the team have done a fantastic job of doing that.
It's really interesting to hear that. Sorry, Dutch.
I was going to say we've done exactly the same thing, just to pick up Catherine's approach, and it's been transformational for our business as well. I know you had Rachel Jones on very recently, actually, so I just wanted to support Catherine's comments as well for exactly the same reasons.
Yeah, and I must say the same. So we are doing literally all the recruitments ourselves as well to get the people recruiting and also the involvement from management and to get people that fits the culture from the beginning. Yeah.
Great. Well, now we're going to move to take some questions from the audience, and the first one is actually very linked to that particular topic. So this comes from Jim Holder of Haymarket. So you probably know Jim. He asks, is it fair to say that part of the journey of change for automotive is recruiting through a different lens than just industry experience? If so, it's often easier to talk in broad terms, but could each speaker give an example of a recruitment they've made of someone with little or no automotive experience and inspire others to do the same by expressing how that worked and it was a benefit to their company? So I don't know if you can think of a specific example there.
I might start if that's okay. So half of my management team are not coming from the industry, and I think from that perspective, we have learned a lot as an organization. I think the core of the automotive is still essential for us, but I have a great team that know the automotive business and the automotive retail business, which I think is super, super important. You can't just recruit outside industry. You need to have the core that actually know what they are doing about the industry, but also get the influences in from other strong leaders are helping us, and we are learning a lot, especially on the retail side. So for us, also as a national sales company or OEM, that have helped us to improve. Especially, I must say, on the customer journeys and how to take care of customers, and also on the people side, I must say, flexible working, better working schemes, things that we didn't know about earlier that we have embraced from other industries. So that's from our perspective. Have been really, really good, and it's not about everyone need an automotive experience. Is how you're setting the team together, the mix of it, because you can also learn, and everyone is starting in an industry sometime, but you have a lot of knowledge that we need in our organization as well.
It's about building a team with complementary characteristics and skills and expertise, isn't it? How about you, Dax? Can you think of bringing someone in from the outside?
Yeah, our approach has been, because I think the challenge you're going to have if you're going to try and bring people in at senior level is that, we still have to acknowledge there is a degree of automotive experience that you need because of those senior roles that you're doing. Otherwise, I think that makes it quite difficult. So the approach we took 7 years ago is trying to get people in from the outside coming in at this level is going to, you see in the past, and I've seen companies try to do that in the past, and generally people struggle. I think people further down the organization say, well, how has that happened? The experience, and I think that does create a bit of friction. So the approach we took, which I think is more sustainable, it's a lot slower, but I think will pay dividends for us in the long term, is start right at grassroots levels, create your own. And that's the approach we've taken. And if I look at something that I mentioned, some of the things that we've been doing around our recruitment team, so that was a big change for us. We did in the last couple of years, and that's really, I would say now, we used to spend, I'm trying to remember the numbers now, we used to spend 7 figures on recruitment, over £1 million a year on recruitment. That number has come down 90% off some head. It's of that scale, that it's night and day in terms of how much we're now doing internally, and the little agency work that we're doing is where it's very niche specialist roles, like someone in finance or something that is not the easiest role to recruit. But by and large, just like Catherine and Christian, everything's now done in-house, and that's paid dividends. So we're thinking about what are we doing in terms of our marketing messages. I mean, it's silly things like we noticed what are we actually showing on our website? What image does that portray of our organization? So have we got diversity on our website, for example? It might sound silly, but we looked on our website and we just had pictures of guys all of a sudden, and so we looked at changing that. So in terms of the attraction there, and I think what we've seen, it has taken time, but we launched a program called Future Leaders about 6 years ago, and 6 years ago we have 2 cohorts of 10 people on each session, and that's all again done in-house with our academy. We only had 1 female 6 years ago. We've just done the process in December, and we couldn't do it face to face because so we did it all by video. So we had 47 videos submitted, and of the 20 candidates that went through, more than half are women now. And I think what's happened is we've been able to create a culture where this is normal now in our business, and one thing is, I want to be in a situation at some point in the future, however many years that's going to be, we don't have to have sessions like this, because this is just the norm. It's just normal that we're not having to promote diversity and inclusion because it's not a topic that's relevant anymore. Because why are we having that conversation? It's just the way we do business. So, and I'm seeing those people that are coming into our business are, I would say, more than half are from outside the industry, because this is a fantastic industry. We just don't do a good enough job, in my opinion, of promoting the fantastic career that you can have here. And I think the other thing, we are going to have to recruit different people, because I'm seeing, as we all are, the change in the consumer behavior. They are far more better educated than ever before. They come into our showrooms more often than not, knowing more about the transaction, more about the car, the specification, than our salespeople do. They spend 20, 30 hours, depending on whose research you want to believe, looking up the information. So that interaction of how the sales process used to work, in recent years is very, very different. We're looking for people who are fantastic with customers, who are great at doing what they said they were going to do, really, really loving our customers to death. And I think the skills now are not salespeople, because I don't believe selling cars is sales anymore. I think it's just around customer handling more than anything else, and treat these customers like your family. And I think that will generate and attract a very different type of candidate than we have been looking at in the past.
And Catherine, I suppose it's not so much the same kind of challenge for you in terms of recruiting from outside automotive, but do you have anything that you can share with regards to bringing somebody in that was totally, I suppose, a different profile to what you've had before?
I think we probably are a bit different, because we've always recruited across technology, marketing, sales, and because we are at that crossroads between technology and automotive, we've always had a real diversity of people from all sorts of different industries in our business. And one thing I would say is that we don't have any challenge at all selling why the automotive industry is a really exciting place to work or place to be, because all of us are going to live and experience the impact that automotive is going to have on the future of mobility, which is going to have massive implications for how we all live and how we all work. And I know I found that a really exciting kind of journey and thought process to go on when I joined. And I think one thing that it does enable us to do when we're talking about automotive is we can present and paint our own picture of automotive to those people we are bringing in to the industry. And there are some fantastic examples, in particular over the last 12 months, of retailers, manufacturers really embracing the best of digital, the best of data, and delivering fantastic experiences for consumers. And I think, to pick up on Dash's point, how we shape and retell that story of what the industry does, of the skills we need in the industry in the future, will be so much more important going forward than it perhaps has been in the past. For our strategy, actually, when we look to the future, we think having automotive experience in our business is going to be even more important than it perhaps has been in the past, just because when we look at the pace of change and the pace of disruption and how much and the extent to which many of our customers are evolving how they operate, evolving the technology they use, evolving their business processes. We need to understand that better and to be closer to that, arguably, than we've ever needed to be before. So we are looking and thinking about how and where we find the right talent from the industry and from within this industry that fits with our culture, that buys into our strategy, that wants to come on the journey with Auto Trader. So it's probably a bit of a different challenge for us, but definitely one that we are very focused on at the moment.
And on that point, really, about you mentioned the future, and that things are changing, and I think you've all mentioned it in your responses. So we have a question from Penny Weatherup. Penny is the HR director of Volkswagen Group. And her question is, are there opportunities then to bring diversity into senior roles in the new areas of the business? Transformation, digital, IT, electrification, sustainability. We tend to be a bit insular normally. So are there any thoughts about bringing in fresh people in those new areas of the business? So if I turn to you first, Christian, from
I must say, as we are operating right now, everything that is part of the global online business is our advocates of what we used to do. To be honest, they are going in the opposite direction from what we used to do, and it has been quite painful, as they are literally full of people with no automotive competence at all. I would say the vast majority is people from digital industries and coming from the outside. But now when we are in the middle of the merging process of those two organizations, it's quite tense. But I must say it's really interesting because we learn a lot, and I think it's quite a bold decision to have been taken that we should have separated it in the beginning, as they were a startup business before they took off, and now everything is merged. So we are learning a lot. They are learning a lot, and I think one of the really interesting ones was they realized in the end that you need automotive competence as well. So you can't just do something that is totally out of the scope and try to succeed, because you need some of the traditional competences as well. So the mix of it is very useful. And I will say on the senior levels we are doing a lot of recruitments as well. But it's again the mixes of coming from the outside together with core operational automotive competence is how we see the future.
And Dax, with regards to like the move to digitalization and online selling, do you see that as an opportunity to bring more potentially diverse women into the business?
I mean, I think picking up, I think that is an opportunity, no question. And I think the one thing is, I think tech's equally got similar challenges around diversity as well. So, we are and have been in the process of recruiting somebody to do digital in our business as well. And in fact, we did appoint somebody recently, but just shows how rare these people are, because the candidate that we offered actually was a woman. Sadly, she got counter offered by another company with a bigger job. So, but that's one of the challenges that you've got in this space. Again, there's not enough in tech. I mean, I'm sure Catherine's probably got a lot more experience than I have on that, but certainly, I think there will be new roles created because it's too often. I mean, Penny's question is quite interesting, because when you look at some of the roles that typically you do see a higher concentration of women going in, it tends to be in roles like HR, for example, or potentially in finance for accounts. But why does that happen? I mean, what's quite interesting for us is we're seeing more women come into senior roles. I mentioned Carol earlier, who's running. I mean, Carol runs 17 businesses for us, which is a huge job. Why? I want to see more women coming through doing those senior leadership roles. And what's great is we're seeing more now at line management with the work that we started, putting in those foundations. We're seeing more a lot more now at line manager, and we are seeing now more general managers in the business coming through, which is great, and that they will then be the future leaders in the organization as well. But I think, we've also got in some of the other senior roles that we have, for example, our corporate, the lady who heads up our entire corporate sales function is a lady called Zoe. She's doing a fantastic job growing our fleet operations from 2,000 units in 2008 to I guess we'll do somewhere around 25,000 fleet vehicles. So significant growth. So we are seeing more diversity coming into these roles. And I do think some of the roles that Penny's mentioned, I do see that as an opportunity to bring in more women. But again, there are challenges with that as well for the reasons that we talked about earlier. But I'm sure Catherine's got a view on that as well.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we've done this year, we're 6-7 years into our early careers graduate program, where we've, similar to Dash, we've been trying to bring in and grow through the organisation as many people as we can into the industry and into our culture. And we've launched this year a new training program that we've called the Diverse Talent Accelerator, where rather than taking a kind of horizontal slice through the organisation and trying to bring people through at each level, we've taken a kind of diagonal slice through the organisation, to taking different people at different levels from different parts of the organisation. The program's been open to everyone, but it has very consciously focused on women and other underrepresented groups to try and support them to progress through the organisation and to break through that glass ceiling faster. And the course is very focused on basically giving them the leadership and influencing and confidence and all the things they need to be successful, to try and basically drag and pull people through our organisation faster. Because as I said before, the big challenge for us is trying to recruit externally at more senior levels. And actually, we're much more comfortable and feel confident about taking a view, and perhaps to some taking a bit of a risk on, how much experience people have or how much they can take on. But we feel much more comfortable doing that with people that we know, part of our culture, part of our values, have been successful at the job they're doing. And to be honest, it's hopefully another way that we can make more progress faster, rather than continually being or needing to go outside of the organisation for that talent.
And I have another question here that's from slightly off that topic now. So we're going to move on a little bit. And this is from Anita Fox from Facebook. And I'll put it to you first, Catherine, because I know that that you do quite a lot in this space in Auto Trader. And her question is that it's well documented that women's careers slow down when they have a family. One thing that we've seen that evens the playing field is giving men 4-month paternity leave and introducing supported ramp-up programs for women returning to work after they've taken 2 years out. What programs do you employ to support employees who are starting families? So you first, Catherine.
Yeah, it's a really, it's probably still it's definitely still one of the challenging areas. We still have, and women in our women's network talk very openly about the confidence challenges, the returning to work after maternity leave being just incredibly difficult, like almost starting a new job and starting a new organisation for some people. We did change all of our policies on this about 18 months ago now, to very much try and share as much as we can, if couples want to share the parenting responsibility more evenly and be much more open to shared parental leave, to giving the real support that both women and men and all couples need in going through that journey of starting and creating a family. We're also looking at how we improve, and have improved in the last 12 months, that return program, because I'm a huge believer that actually women and men returning to the organisation having started families, they're just hugely valuable people to have in an organisation, because typically you immediately become a lot more organised, because you have to be more organised. You immediately become much better at managing your own time, because you just have to, because you've got so much you need to do. And often those people are some of the most efficient people in meetings, because they're on a mission, because they've got to get stuff done, because they've got to get home or get off Teams or Zoom to get homeschooling or feed the kids. And all of us have experienced that in a very, very exaggerated way over the last 12 months. And I really hope actually that for everyone in our organisation and other organisations, that the experience of the last 12 months has made us all more empathetic, more open to how people do blend those challenges of home life and work life, and how we help everyone to find a better balance and give them the confidence that being the parent you want to be doesn't have to come at the expense of having an incredibly successful, productive career. And I hope that we do a good job at Auto Trader of helping people to find that balance for them.
And over to, so Christian and Dax, so your approach in your organisations with regards to, I suppose, encouraging men to take paternity leave, and maybe whether you've reviewed your parental leave policies. So I'd start with you first, Christian.
I think from us, from a Volvo perspective, from a global perspective, we have a very flexible approach to parental leave, and we are actually topping up quite significantly also on the salaries to be able to mix also between parents. So how much parental leave they should have between each other, and that should be fully flexible. And I think we are in such a quite an interesting parent situation right now with all the homeschooling, where we have implemented a full flexible work scheme, because we have some people starting to work 5 o'clock in the morning, and then I need to do homeschooling in the afternoon, etc. And that should be fully flexible between the individuals. And also topping up vacation, because I think we, in a situation where we are now, instead of furloughing people, I think it's better that people take the vacation periods off, and we try to top that up with 20%. So if you take 4 days, you get an extra day off to be able to help your kids with homeschooling, and that should be equally divided between them. And also, I think from a leaving perspective, when you are on parental leave, I'd rather take in a consultant similar than just replacing the job. So you know what you should return to, and that is already discussed before you go to you leave for your parental leave. So for us, if you're building a diversity and a gender balance in the organization, you need to be very flexible as well when you are and driving towards that strategy, because otherwise it would not work. And also, I think getting more females into the organization, it's about a flexible working approach as well. And that I also think it's the parental leave, if you have a big differentiations in income and you haven't, then it's easier that the female takes the parental leave and the male is still working. So you need to be able to top up and also be flexible in that approach. And that's also why income is so important, to have equal pay for equal work.
And actually, in some situations, we are, if we have an imbalance between what men can access when as a parent and what women can access, we're perpetuating gender stereotypes in that the clear financial choice is that the woman stays at home because she gets more benefits to do that. So do you have any thoughts you can add, Dax?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with what Catherine and Christian would say. I think Anita's question is actually quite challenging, to be honest with you. If we're all honest with each other, I've got to be honest and say this is a topic that I don't think we're doing enough work on in our organisation. If I'm completely honest, I think it's very difficult. We don't see. I'm sort of just been reflecting, listening to the conversation. How often is it that we get these requests? I don't think we do. We get a huge amount of these requests, but that tells you exactly what you're saying, Julia. I still think it's difficult because, like it or not, I mean, we report gender pay gap. I'm really proud that in the top 100 groups, we were one of the best in terms of gender pay gap. So I was really proud of that. There's still a gap there, which is not good, but we were amongst I think we're in the top 3 of the top 100 companies. So I was really proud of that. But it is difficult, as you say, and I think there's this still whole maybe lack of appreciation in terms of what women do contribute. And I've got to say, having worked at home for the last 1 year, which we're coming up to a year soon, I have got a huge appreciation for what my wife does. I mean, homeschooling is not easy. It is not easy, and I've witnessed it for myself. And I try and do what I can to help out, but I think Catherine's points are out. Hopefully people will really have a lot more appreciation for what a tough job that is, and what a tough job, parenting kids is. And I think too much goes on women. I think that's been historic. I think hopefully that will be one of the positive things that comes out of this pandemic, that there is a greater appreciation for the contribution that both parents bring and what the strengths and weaknesses that happen. And certainly one of the things I'm going to commit to, and I am committing to internally at home, is to try and do more to help at home on that, because it's not easy when you've got a busy job, and it's too easy to say, well, I'm doing this or I'm doing that, and I've got a really busy schedule. But Catherine's right. Busy people generally get stuff done. because they're just organised and they make things happen. So I hope that what we will do as an industry is try and promote parental leave more. And I think Anita's question is a good one and very challenging.
Yeah, sorry. I think the only way we've found actually since changing all our policies and topping up and making it, and actively encouraging men to take that leave, we just need some senior role models to do it and to celebrate it and to shout about it. And my partner and I divided a parental leave when we had our children, and you just need people to talk about it, and you need real life role models of men that have done it and have experienced it. Because actually, from speaking to the men that have done it and have experienced it, they then immediately understand the challenges that women face when they are returning back into an organization. And we need more people that have more men in leadership positions that have experienced that really know what it feels like to sort of have been just lost your context and lost your sense of purpose and status in the organization. And so finding those role models, shouting about them and building that story, I think is probably the best way out of it, because we can all change our policies, but I'm not sure this is one where changing the policies is actually going to be the answer.
Yes, changing the culture to make it an acceptable thing to do, isn't it? And something that's appreciated. I know that when I was doing the research for my book, I found that there's lots of evidence and research done that shows that children that spend their early years with both parents have better life outcomes, better educational outcomes, because they are reacting to two different individuals and different parenting styles. So there is so much to say for men also taking on care and responsibilities particularly when the child is very young, and all the bonding and things that takes place at that time. So I have another challenging question for you here from Julia Philpott, and she's one of our enabler companies that help people to put things in place to improve their gender balance. And her question is, would the panel be prepared to share any mistakes that they've made or particular barriers that they've faced, any difficulties, so that others can be aware and try to avoid them? So I'm probably going to start with you, Catherine. You're smiling, so that's a positive indication. So, anything you can share.
Oh, I think it sort of comes back to one of the themes I was talking about earlier. I think early in the gender balance journey for Autotrader, I think everyone, the organisation, the leadership team were very, very bought into making change. And this was actually before my time, but I've heard different people talk about it and share these stories. And I think our organization is used to driving change very quickly. As an organization, if we want to change our strategy, if we want to build a product, if we want to make something happen, we will go and we will absolutely throw everything at it, put all of our energy and efforts behind it to make it happen. And I think it sounds like the stories played back of it, we were in too much of a rush when we first decided that this was a journey we really wanted to go on. And this would have been 7 or 8 years ago, but in those early years, we perhaps promoted some people or hired externally and wanted to get, the balance there through the data and tell the story quicker than we were perhaps ready to. And I think we could tell the story because on paper it looked like we'd done a really good job. And this is no reflection of any of the individuals that were in those positions. But I think we found when then either they moved on or they went on different career journeys that actually we hadn't built that sustainable pipeline through early careers strongly enough, or through actually reviewing our promotion processes and our pay review processes and the learning and development programs we had to make sure that we were driving and pushing and enabling people to break down those glass ceilings through the organization. So I think we made a lot of progress very, very quickly in the first couple of years, but then probably those middle years were all about actually going back and saying, well, okay, we've changed these things, but actually there's training programs, there's promotion processes, there's pay review, there's all these other things that actually have to be part of building that long-term sustainable future. It's about building the legacy beyond the first people that are the real role models or the actual evidence that you've made some change. And I think that's probably, my understanding of the Autotrader journey is that that's probably one of the biggest learnings we've had along the way.
And how about you, Kristin? Have you made any mistakes or overcome?
No, I think what we have learned throughout the lockdown has been very important, because I think previously I must say I was protecting people with valuable assets, that they should sit and do what they have done for a long time. I think that has also changed, because when you are in a transformation, you should embrace even the ones that you are very that are very vulnerable for organization, that they have a certain skill, etc., that they need to transform. You need to plan the succession. You need to embrace them to take on new opportunities and new challenges, because as more you are building people's CVs and competence and expertise, you're actually building a better company. You more easily transform it as well. And that I think is a lesson that we have seen in the transformation, as if you don't recognize all the people and you have a proper succession plan for them and help them in the development within the organization or even outside the organization, you get quite a static organization that will not do good for the future, and not for the individual either. But even if the individual feel protected by sitting on a valuable competence, that competence could actually be a not valid one in 5 years' time, but you never know. But that is why you need to have all the competences on board and all the people on board, that they actually should be embraced to challenge themselves, take on new opportunities and new roles. And also as a leader, it's important that you actually embrace that for the full organization. So it's not difficult to move from operations to marketing, or from marketing to operations. You just need to do it, and you need to do it with help to build a better organization for the future. And that's something that I learned that I will continue with, and it actually helped us in our second transformation last year. But it's still quite hard when you have done the same job for 20 years and you've always been protected, and people have been afraid for you as an individual to move on.
Well, we've got lots and lots of questions coming in, so I'm going to move to another one now for you, Dax, because I think the person asking the question, Olia Gudinishin, works in the retail side of the business. And she says, as someone only 3 years into the industry who loves it, she says in capital letters, what advice would you give about what actions I can take to make the most of my entry-level years to set the pace for career development to ideally reach an upper management position? In other words, what would you have done differently looking back, if anything? Or what do you think would make the largest impact, or what has made the largest impact in your career? So this is Olia, starting in the retail side, got a headset on your job, Dax. So maybe, what advice would you give her?
Well, Olia, if you make a note of this, it's dg@mmhplc.com. That's work for us. Give me a shout. Sorry, hopefully you do work for us anyway. But I think for me, attitude always makes a big difference. I think you can see people who just got the right attitude. They're keen to learn. They're great with customers. People often ask me, how have you been successful? I mean, I was a director at Inchcape at 30. I was CEO at Marshall at 37, and they asked me, what is the secret? And I don't think there is a secret. I don't think there's anything special about me. I think I do work incredibly hard. I will admit that, but I just think it's around attitude. I really do. I think it's about having that winning mindset. I think have a mentor as well. I've been really lucky, and I think when in my early career, I didn't really appreciate the value or some of the advice I was getting from some of the people I'd worked with previously, and sort of just listen to that, reflect on that. So I'd say find a mentor. And a lot of people, you'd be surprised how many people will help you. I mean, right now I'm sort of supporting 3 people. I don't shout about it. I just mentor those people in the background, and they ring me for advice and what do you think of this. But you'll find that if you find the right mentor or ask them, they will be happy to speak to you, and they will be happy to advise and coach you, because they actually find that quite rewarding. I find it incredibly rewarding. I mean, there's a young man who works in our business who's is running one of our biggest businesses in the group, who's got huge potential, and he rings me up on a regular basis. What do you think of this? What do you think of that? And it's so rewarding seeing him develop. So I'd say find yourself a mentor would be another advice I would give. Julia, I just want to answer Julia's previous question, because I've on the
okay.
I've made lots of mistakes, make them every single week, sadly. But I would say the mistake we made was we didn't take the organisation on some of the reasons of why we were doing. So as a management team, we got it. We understood we needed to change, and we started to drive that change. But we didn't do a good enough job, I think, of communicating to the entire organisation why we were doing what we were doing. And that led to, we thought we did, but there still was a little bit of confusion. And I think the risk is, when people hear things like 30%, they start to make the narrative up themselves. They don't understand. They suddenly think, oh, well, does that mean if I'm a male, I'm not going to get an opportunity to develop? That's not what we're saying. That's not what we're saying. We're saying diversity brings much better business benefits. So I think that communication piece of why you're doing this is really, really important. And that was one of the things I think we could have done better.
That's very nice, honest answers from everybody there. So I'm afraid we're going to have to start wrapping up. So I'm going to ask you all to say some final words. People that haven't had their questions asked, by the way, we will save them for the final session of the day tomorrow, where Christian has taken part, and we can perhaps put some of these relevant questions to some of our other guests. So I'm just going to ask you each to, probably in about 45 seconds, sum up what one piece of advice you wish you'd been given when you started to build a gender balance that you can share with others. And also, can you please share with the audience why you decided to become a patron of the club? So we'll start with Christian first, please.
Oh, I would have loved to learn to be more experienced in the beginning. If I look 25 years back, there is so much that you could have done differently. But transformation is not easy. You need to be dedicated. You need to have a pure objective and a great purpose of what you're doing and why you're doing your business in a certain way. And never give up and take bold decisions and trust your gut feel. And that's the advice I get. And you will not climb the mountain in a day. It takes time, but you will get there if you're determined and clear enough about your objectives and purposes. So keep moving.
And why did you decide to become a patron?
Excuse me?
Why did you decide to become a patron of the 30%?
Oh, yeah, well, I decided, I think for me, especially it's coming from Sweden, where I've done this once before, I think it's crucial for us to continue to do it. I think what you see of the results in a team and an organization with much more diversity and gender balance is so much greater than to have a traditional organization. So I embrace all of you listeners to continue to do the change, because it will give you a better result, more profit, and happier customers and employees.
Great, thanks. And over to you, Catherine, very quickly.
So my advice would be absolutely be patient and focus on driving sustainable and lasting change. There are no quick fixes. Overambitious targets, headline-grabbing announcements all can damage cultures, trust, and undermine the work that others are trying to do. It's all about driving the cultural and organizational changes needed to build a business that has better gender balance and is still going to have better gender balance over the longer term. But if you are open to radically changing how your processes work, how your systems work, how your programs work, then ultimately the benefits for business performance, for culture, for well-being actually are so powerful and valuable. It will probably be the best investment of time that people will ever make. And on why being a patron, well, I think for me, it's just, we're only going to change this if we all work together. And we've learned so much from, being a member and from shared experiences. And I genuinely believe that if we do all work together, we can make the industry a better place for all of us and for, all the people that aren't yet in it.
So true. And Dax, final word?
Yeah, I'd say for me, this is a long-term strategy. Don't get frustrated if things don't happen overnight. I also agree with Catherine that if you're going to look for quick fixes, it won't happen, and I think you can potentially damage your business doing that. So our approach has been right at the coalface, start right at the very beginning, and it's going to take. I mean, for us, we've been at it 7 years. If I'm honest, when we started, I thought this was going to take us 5 years. We're not even halfway through this journey, in my opinion. I think we're making great progress. We're doing the right things, and it's about having a sustainable long-term strategy to fix this issue. And I think in terms of why being a patron, I think for me, I'm incredibly proud to be associated with the organisation. I think the work that the organisation has done in terms of creating awareness is phenomenal. I mean, the work, and I think credit to yourself, Julia, in particular. I mean, what you've done has been nothing short of phenomenal, quite frankly. I mean, if you had said we would be doing things like this 3 years ago, I think I've been saying, really, I just don't see it. So, there were organisations, Auto Trader, Volvo, who were, and ourselves, who were doing this in the background. I think having us all come together and share our ideas, our best practice, is a good thing, because every time I come on sessions like this, I'm learning something today. I mean, what I'm really questioning myself is the question that Anita asked: what are we doing about parental leave? And that's one of the things I will be doing as soon as it's cool, is asking that question: what do we do? So I always come away with these sessions inspired and energized around what we can do and what more we can do. So that's why I'm proud to be a patron.
Great. So thanks so much to our three patrons here today: Christian, Catherine and Dax.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we're going to take a short break. So please join us after the break to watch our guest speaker, the famous equality, diversion, and inclusion expert, John Amaechi, OBE, and he'll be talking about building an inclusive business in the session hosted by Jessica Goitner of our conference sponsor, Salesforce.